Hey, Magnus, you did indeed catch the catch the countdown. I got 2 zines today, one of which is the one in front of us right now, Beyond the Twisted Portal, was gratefully passed to me by Tristan, who's a friend of the channel. And the other one I actually just got this morning, but it just made sense. I was going to do Dune today, and I thought, you know what, take a break. Take a break from Dune. I had Tristan's zine here in front of me, and then I got that other one that popped in. So I thought I'll do a dual zine read through. I hope I'm not biting off more than I can chew. We shall see. But we're going to try it. Hey, Brian. And this is some iced coffee for the working man. I'm still working on my technique. I recently got a Hario Switch, and I've been playing around with it for doing some kind of afternoon coffee drinks. Don't have it totally nailed down yet, but I am digging some of the different things people are doing with it. Thanks, Magnus. I'm trying. It's tough. I might do a video maybe on my other channel to kind of some cathartic kind of stuff. But yeah, it's been a rough ride this week. But you know, there's nothing to do but to keep going, keep doing. So that's what I'm doing. All right. Beyond the Twisted Portal, an OSR zine, issue number 1. We have a welcome message here. The idea of zines always appealed to me. I love the DIY ideals behind putting out zines. The punk rock attitude seen in the underground music scene of putting out small magazines about bands seems like the perfect fit for the tabletop role-playing game community. Until I got involved in old school gaming and the OSR scene, I had never realized that there were zines for this hobby. I knew about things like Dragon Magazine, but the idea that people are putting out works of love filled with weirdness and ideas for their favorite games hadn't occurred to me. So, of course, as I dug into the world of zines and read some really creative and awesome stuff, I got inspired. So I present to you my zine. I don't know how often it will come out. I don't know what will be in it, but it's mine. The articles are me putting all the odd ideas I have into print. The art is me and my amateur drawing, throwing weirdness onto a sketch pad. So welcome to everything that lays beyond the Twisted Portal. Thanks for reading, Tristan Radu. Hopefully I pronounced that last name correctly. I mean, I really dig this style. I did just really briefly just kind of go through it, and I really like the aesthetic. Honestly, it's something that I wish that I could embrace more. It's just it's difficult for me. I want to, you know, I just find myself in that odd thing of wanting to compete with someone. And we'll look at the other one, which is very, very designy. I'm finding myself want to compete with that, and I'd rather do something really super simple like this. I just can't quite get the 2 parts of my brain to agree on that. We have the table of contents in this issue. Okay, so what do we got here? Cursed Lair of the Rat King, broken armor and rusty swords, surviving the session, the master swordsmith, and the lizard riders. All right, and without further ado, we're up with the first thing, which is called Cursed Lair of the Rat King. I'm guessing this is an adventure. Oh yeah, it's okay. It's a 5-room dungeon of the bizarre. Beneath the streets, the dripping wet of the sewers, the Rat King rules his Ratkin empire. They make frequent forays to the surface, stealing food, weapons, and on occasion people in preparation for the king's grand plan to swarm the town and create a new Ratkin empire. The townsfolk are scared and have put out a call for heroes to venture into the dank atmosphere of the Lair of the Rat King to put a stop to his plans. Hey, Mercurius, thanks for the gifted membership. Appreciate it. Hey, Brian Smith, look at that. Finally, reward for all that you do.
Streamlabs.
Okay, the referee info. So we get a background, very, super simple, straightforward. We got an antagonist hiding below the streets of the town. You got to stop them before they take over. Hey, Mark, how are you? Referee info. In the Rat King's throne room, which is Area 5, is a pool of bubbling green ooze. This pool is where the rat can throw their captives to mutate them into rodent berserkers. If a PC falls in this pool, they will begin to mutate in 1d6 plus PC level turns unless magically cured, restoration, or remove curse or similar. The pool can be neutralized with a purify water spell. I do appreciate that the PC level, I always like using levels. I don't think people use levels enough for differentiators, when to me it should be the thing that we rely on the most, should be your level, because that more than anything else describes your sort of power in the game. So I appreciate that. Okay, so then restoration or remove curse. We don't know what power levels this is meant for, but don't drink the bubbling green ooze. I guess is the lesson there. Treasure types listed for the monsters use the BX treasure types, armor class given as ascending, descending, AC in parentheses. All right, great. Mercurius wants to know if there's a collection of, if the Rat King has a collection of rats with their tails entangled. I'm not sure in this case, but I do like that. I saw in Paris, I was in Paris and they had one of those, I guess it's pretty famous. And there might be more than one of those storefronts for like rat catchers or I guess exterminators or whatnot. And they had kind of like a Rat King thing. Doesn't seem like it's a lot of fun for anybody involved, actually. All right, so we have some stats for rats, giant rats, and ratkin. I'm not going to read them per se. I'll read the description for the ratkin. Ratkin are sewer dwellers. Excuse me. Ratkin are sewer dwellers that have evolved over time to become a hybrid of rat and goblin. They are intelligent and fight in packs of 1d6. They stand about 3.5 feet tall and weigh approximately 50 pounds. Their fur varies from gray to white, and their eyes glow red in the dark. They have dark vision with a 30-foot range. Ratkin normally fight with crude spears, but occasionally use daggers or short swords stolen from their captives. All right, cool. So we get a little thing. So they're kind of a goblin rat hybrid, which is interesting. And then we have the Ratkin Berserkers, which I guess are the converted. Well, I guess let's just read it. Ratkin Berserkers are the mutated abductees of the Ratkin. They are the result of being bathed in the toxic ooze in the Rat King's throne room. They have bubbling sores and patches of fur covering their bodies, and their faces have been twisted into a feral semblance of a rat. They have yellow eyes and dark vision up to 30 feet. They stand the same height they were when mutated, between 5.5 to 6.5 feet tall, and weigh the same as an adult human. When they reach half hit points, they fly into a rage and swing their crude axe wildly. All right, so we get a little flavor in there. A little bit about, so that half hit points is that kind of your 40 parlance, sort of the bloody thing. Mercurius wants to know how goblins and rats bred together. I don't know if they, it doesn't say that they bred together. Basically, it says that they evolved over time into this sort of goblin hybrid form. I don't think this is the result of a breeding program between goblin or a forbidden love between goblins and rats. I think it's just, that's about what they look like. The elevator pitch of a ratkin, and what is it? It's a goblin, a goblin and a rat combined. But I don't think that's supposed to mean literally that's what they are. They evolved over time. They are their own creature. But yes, guarding tunnels probably does get lonely. Okay, the Rat King sits his bulbous form on his throne and watches with mirthful glee as captives are lowered into the pool of ooze. He will command his subjects to fight for him before stepping into the fray. He will take every opportunity to run from the fight if it looks like he will lose. He's about the same height as an adult human and weighs almost 300 pounds. He moves very quickly for his size, but tires quickly and will only move at full speed for 1d4 turns. After, he will move at half speed. All right, so I like that. So you get there's some nice characterization here, right? So we get the Rat King. It's not just, they could have just said, oh, he's this feet tall and does this, but you get a little bit of, he's kind of portly, he's mirthful. You get a bit of his behavioral stuff. He's gonna run away, but he can't run very fast. I feel like the Rat King could really be a good adversary for multiple adventures if he can manage to get away. Hey, Bo, how are you? Ryan says, this Rat King has some good 80s cartoon villain vibes. Throne room with a transformative ooze pit. Get your Rat King monologues prepared as the heroes get lowered slowly in. Yeah, exactly. Lots of fun could be had. And if you wanted to play it to kind of keep it that sort of 80s cartoon thing, there could be one of the berserkers who finds their humanity for just a moment to help the party escape, or maybe a good charm person could be thrown in there on a Ratkin berserker or somebody else. Yes, it has a lot of fun. And if you could manage to your Rat King to get him away, he's someone who could be doing plot after plot, sinister things on this town or just another town. I might want to add for myself, if there's some connection between the Rat King and the power structure of the area. Is there a reason why he's at this? He just happens to be at this town, or is there some significance to the town? I mean, obviously the town, this is where the ooze is, and unless he carries the ooze around with him, or he's able to make more or get more from someone, which also has some interesting ideas of where is the ooze coming from if he's able to get more. A lot of possibilities. Lots of possibilities. We get some wandering monsters. Roll a d6 every 6 turns. On a 1, there's a wandering monster encounter. Roll in the following tables so you can get rat berserkers, ratkin, a giant rat, some regular rats, a giant more giant rats, or actually it's the same number, and then giant spiders. So the only thing is, you were not going to get the Rat King, which I think I like. You're not going to run into the Rat King wandering. The Rat King is in the throne room. And then we don't have a, I don't have a, where's the map? Okay, so here's the map. The only thing I might say just from a layout thing is I'd like to get the map before the room descriptions to kind of orient myself. We have a very, simple dungeon, but you got some, you have some loops. We like our loops, right? There are multiple ways to get through. We've got, let's see, 1, 2, this is right, 5-room dungeon with the 2 hallways have some notes, or at least 2 of the hallways have notes. The third one, I guess, does not. Let's see what we have here. So dungeon location A is the corridor that leads north, and it is flooded. So this one here is flooded. The water is about 4 feet deep. A giant rat submerges itself when it sees the PC's light. It will attack on a 2 and 6 if they enter the water. And then let's see, in location B, which is this one, the rats are going to, there's some rats here, but they're going to flee. Wow, 5d10, so a lot of rats. But they're going to flee to room 5. And, there's C. Okay, I was going to say, where is C? C is right there, which is a trap. If you force, let's see, when the door to room 5 is forced open, trap is activated on 1 and 6. 3 spears fall from the ceiling. Roll to hit for each one. On a hit, a spear deals 1d6. Spears deal 1d6 each. Okay, so they're, coming down. But it only activates on a 1 and 6, so you might get lucky. Okay, so then we have the actual rooms. That's the other thing I might do just for layout is, like, I don't need to, none of these locations except for B. Oh no, A is kind of right, but I think I'd have them in order that you hit them. So 1 and then A, then 2, 3, 4, then maybe B, C, and then 5 kind of thing, just because I don't need to worry about B and C until I've at least hit room 1. Anyway, room 1 is a sewer entrance. Water drips from the ceiling, forming a small puddle in the corner of the room. High-pitched chittering can be heard echoing off the cold stone deeper in the sewer. There is a putrid stench that fills the air, making it thick. Nice atmosphere. We get some physical things with the puddle. We get some sounds, both the chittering, and we also get smells. So we're getting all our senses involved. That's room 1, then room 2. A large circular drain high in the wall allows water from the surface to flood into the room and drain through another hole in the floor. Bright green slime drips from the wall drain. Walls are slick and the air humid. And there are 3 ratkin that climb out of the drain in the wall. When 2 of the ratkin are defeated, they will chitter loudly and call 24 rats from the floor drain. That's a lot of rats. A rope descends into the hole in the floor. Attached to it is a sack containing 3,000 copper. Let's see. So basically, let's see, that'd be 300. That's 30 gold. Before you get your hopes up, that 3,000 copper is 30 gold. Still, you can take it. Okay, let's see. Room 3 is the prison. Chains and manacles hang from the walls. On the south wall, 2 humans are chained up. If they are freed, they will agree to help the party defeat the Rat King. But the captives are level 1 fighters. And there are 2 ratkins standing guard, and there is, okay, I see. So it's just saying that there's the NPCs have their own equipment, and the ratkins have some individual treasure. That's room 3. That's over here. Room 4 is the vault. The vault of the Rat King contains all his quote-unquote treasure. There are some sacks of coins, but also piles of trinkets, household items, tools, etc. These are all the things his ratkin have stolen from the villagers on the surface and taken from his captives. Cast $1 million in nickels. Hey, Maya Mystic. Yeah, that's one way to do it. So in this room we get a Ratkin Berserker, which is the first one we have. I think that's just on location treasure. A bunch more copper, some silver, and some gold. 5 pieces of jewelry, a +1 shield, a +1 mace, and a potion of fire resistance. So not bad. Maya Mystic, I am doing well. Hope you are doing all right. We are reading, just to reset for folks, we're reading the Beyond the Twisted Portal OSR zine number 1. So the one thing I might say, looking at this map, you guys can let me know. I believe I would swap the locations of 5 and 4 Well, it doesn't. Let me see. Where would you put your vault? If this is what you got to work with, wouldn't I feel like I'd want my vault in 5, and I might actually block up maybe even both these doors. The one thing, so there's well, the nice thing about both these rooms, in terms of which one's going to be your throne room, you got escapes because we already established the Rat King. Rat King wants to escape. Maya Mystic, I got you. I'm not talking about graphics stuff right now, but if you want to reach out to me off stream, you're welcome to. But I appreciate it. Um, but I feel like I'd want to have the vault more protected than being basically the place to which almost everything has to come. I'm not sure where I would put it. I almost feel like that thing down here would be the better place to have it, just in terms of the hole in the floor. I do have a Discord, or you could just search for me, Maya Mystic. I'm not really in the market for it right now, just FYI, but you're welcome to reach out. The Horde of the Rat King does have more than 30 gold. It actually has 3,200 gold. So yes, the copper pieces only amount to 32 gold. Then you get 350 gold. So call that 382 gold. But then you have 3,200 gold pieces. So what do we say? 82 or 382 gold. So 3,582 gold. And in the Rat King's chamber, the Rat King sits on his throne of trash, like it, against the north wall. As 2 Rat King lower a prisoner to a large pool of green ooze. The pool is in the center of the room. 2 other prisoners scream and mutate in the southeast corner. The mutation will complete in 1d3 rounds. The Rat King is flanked by a Rat King Berserker and a giant rat. When the PCs enter the room, the Rat King will command the Rat King to attack. The Berserker and giant rat will join once the first Rat King has been defeated. And the other thing I might want to do is to make a note, or you could just make a note yourself. But I think just in terms of I would want to maybe put a note where you can start, because I imagine that you're going to hear the screaming from a fair distance away. So I might in some of these other rooms, certainly for the vault and this hallway here, B. We don't have any. I'm not sure why there's no description for this hallway gets a description. This one does, this little one does, but then this one doesn't. I'm not sure why, but I would think basically anywhere once you open the doors from this first half, I think it would be appropriate to hear the screaming, which could be really good for your atmospherics. But it's a fun little adventure. Super simple. I could see it definitely as kind of your little one shot, get things started. If the Rat King, the one thing is too, is I probably would put some kind of exit. If the Rat King's going to be up here, I imagine I want some kind of exit passage, somewhere he can get away. Maybe he digs himself into the trash and there's this hole he can get his way out of. So I think just for myself, I might tweak this map slightly. What I might do is take this, right, and say, okay, here's what the dungeon, it's a sewer kind of thing. So here's what it was. And now you look and say, okay, what did the goblin, or what did the Ratkin do to it? And I think that I would make, for my throne room, assuming I have a choice, assuming I can put the goo kind of where I want it. Here, maybe wall these up here, put my stuff here, but then maybe if I was going to run, I would run from 4, run into 5, and there's some kind of exit here in like buried in the trash or something. I can dig my way through the trash, something like that. But yes, I could. The Rat King might be dumb, or he might be smart. Really, that's going to be. Really, it's kind of your miles may vary thing, right? Who is your audience? Who are you playing for? Do you want to play them up like a really cheesy, as Brian mentioned, an 80s sort of cartoon villain and just have them be kind of silly? Or do you want them to be, maybe they could still be silly, but they could just get away to fight another day, like Cobra Commander or Destro or those guys from the G.I. Joe. They're not particularly, their plans are pretty lame and they're not that smart, but they tend to be able to escape some way, somehow, to bother good old Joe again another day. But it's a fun little romp, and I really like the character, the flavor of the Ratkin and the Rat King. I might even want to, depending on what you want to do, I might even want to play up the ambitions of the Rat King. Like maybe there's weird graffiti and things that are, proclaiming the coming kingdom of the Rat King. Maybe even in the sewers outside of it, that could be another way to sort of, if you wanted to hint at this thing that's going on, if you wanted to give it more of, because right here it's that classic kind of one shot. You're beginning at the dungeon, right? You just, boom, you've been hired, here you are, kind of thing. But if you wanted to have it and integrate it more with maybe an ongoing campaign, you could have a weird graffiti showing up. Maybe you could even design, and it could be, amateurish and naive and whatnot, because that's the Rat King is probably all of those things, and to have it some weird kind of painted symbol that's like the Rat King symbol and starts showing up places, and then people start disappearing, and so on and so forth. You could have a lot of fun with it, but that's a fun little piece. I like it. All right. Next up, we have broken armor and rusty swords. It is a common experience for dungeon delvers to come across the bodies of previous explorers. Invariably, the less ethical characters, i.e., all of them, will search the bodies for treasure or weapons and armor they can use. They can either use themselves or sell in town for a few extra gold pieces. One thing that rarely comes up is the quality of these items. All right, so we're going to get maybe some sort of used arms and armor marketing. Realism versus fantasy. There is a fine line between making things so realistic it no longer maintains the fantasy of the fiction, and making things so fantastical that we lose that suspension of disbelief. And of course, every table is different. Some tables enjoy a purely simulationist approach that makes the game gritty and real, while others lean into the gonzo weird. However, the quality of armor and weapons found on bodies can fit snugly into both camps. I like a nice snug fit. Determining quality. If and when a PC wants to take equipment off a body, the quality of that equipment should be determined. To assume that metal armor or weapons that have been sitting in the moist darkness of a dungeon are free of rust or damage is, well, just crazy talk. Luckily, like most things in tabletop RPGs, this can be decided with a roll of the dice. All right, so the first thing is we're going to determine the quality of the equipment. So you come across a body, it's got some leather armor on it. Usually the armor's there, you can take it or leave it. But here we're saying, well, how long is it? We're going to roll a die to kind of decide, assuming there's no context already. It might in the module, whatever, say like, oh, this guy died yesterday, in which case you probably don't need to roll. It's probably fine. But if it's just something that maybe you rolled it randomly or is never determined, then you can kind of roll it. Or if it's old, it has been there a long time, you can roll to see how well it was preserved. And props for use of the word moist. So roll a d6. A 1 to 2, it's undamaged and usable. On a 3, there's slight rust or damage. Its attacks and armor class suffer with a penalty of -1. On a 4, you've got moderate rust or damage. 50% chance the item will break after use. On a 5 or 6, there's heavy rust or damage. And there's a penalty of -2 to attacks or armor class, and a 75% chance item will break after use. Once the level of quality is determined, players can then decide if it is worth the effort and added encumbrance in taking it. So the one things I want to add, I see, we're going to get resell and repair. Because I was going to say, it would be nice to have I think maybe you could organize this in a table that just has all this stuff all together as opposed to 3 separate kind of lists. But it's not a big deal. And maybe there's a table later on, maybe not. I wonder what's considered a use. Would that be put on the armor? I would just have it at the end of a session kind of adventure where you go into the dungeon, then you come back out, and then you can try it there. I wouldn't have it after every encounter. It just would get laborious to me, and it's not worth it. Because remember, by the book, we're not worried about all this stuff. So we're adding in a little extra step to give things a little bit more realism, because normally we don't care about such things. So the question comes up: resell or repair? Oh, there's a little typo there. Repair. The economical adventurer will need to make a decision beyond whether or not to take that damaged male shirt, to sell or repair. Selling the item will surely bring a few coins they didn't have before, while repairing it for less than the cost of buying it new might upgrade their current setup. Repair, of course, might not always make sense. Is it repairable at all? Does the cost outweigh the reward? And now we have basically a little table of resell values. If it's undamaged, you get 70% market, down to 50%, 30%, and then 10%. And then we get a note that, hey, it's just suggestions. There's always a chance that you might get more or less. And then for repair cost, if it's slight, 20% of market value. If the damage is moderate, it's 45% chance. Heavy, 75% chance. And then if it's heavy, there's a 50% chance it's just unrepairable. So the one thing with this is I think that most players and games, I can't see it's not a bad thing. I'm just not sure who's going to engage with this because after the first, maybe even not even level, the first delve, I don't think you're ever going to, I could see prioritizing getting armor. Well, I mean, let's look at it. Okay, so let's say I'm just going to go, I happen to have BX in front of me. If I go and I look up, let's look up some costs of equipment. We shall see. Hold on, scrolling. Here we go. Okay, so an armor chainmail costs 40 gold. And now remember, in BX, everything, treasure and everything's pretty much going to be, all things are in kind of gold piece values. So if you're playing a more modern OSR game, it might be 40 silver, but let's just say 40 gold. So 40 gold, if it's undamaged, you're going to get 70%. If it's got slight damage, you're getting 50% market value. So that automatically, let's just say some slight damage, you're automatically going from 40 to 20 is going to be your kind of best bet for getting it. Maybe you can repair it, which would be 20% of the value. Then you could, probably not even really worth it. I don't know if the math is there that if you take something that's slight and then repair it and then you sell it for undamaged, is it worthwhile? I'm not sure. Point being that you're probably, if you're a fighter type or say cleric, you probably got at least chainmail going on, unless you were super unlucky with your rolls. That's probably the first thing you bought. Like, oh, whatever gold I have, probably got at least chainmail. And then maybe even on your first delve, you're probably getting more than that back in stuff. If you're unlucky and you don't, I suppose I guess what I'm saying is that I don't think it's going to take many adventures and many delves before the cost of just monkeying with the system is just not worth it. After it, I don't think it takes very long for people to go. Just normally, even if you were getting 100% back of market value, I think very quickly people stop looting armor for everybody or weapons for resell, because it's not worth the encumbrance. There's much better things. Just a little gem or something you can have. How many gems could you have for what you could get from, for how many gems could you carry instead of one chainmail or one something else, right? It's just not economical. And then after that, so even at the beginning, it might not be worth it, but it might for a couple of delves. But then probably after that, it's not. And then once you're past there, you'll probably never be satisfied or want to spend time or encumbrance to pull that stuff back anyway. What might be interesting is if you apply this to magic weapons. So usually magic weapons and magic stuff, magic armor, which I always dig, is the idea that, like Sting or Orcrist or these things that Glamdring, that no matter how long they've been hanging around in troll hordes or buried in the ground or in moist dungeons, they might become discolored or they get some dirt on them, but you just wipe it off and they're just like, it's like they're new. That's part of their magical effect. But you could have them undergo some kind of damage. Maybe not that they're ever useless, but that they're damaged. And so what I'm getting at is that maybe you roll this for all the stuff and some of that's magic. And then maybe to repair a magic item and these resell repair things, now you're looking at 20% of the market value of the magic item. And now those are higher costs, but then maybe higher rewards. So what happens if I've got a heavy rusted or damaged chainmail +2? That one's an intriguing question. Do I take it and spend the encumbrance, and I have to but I'm not going to be able to wear it right away, or it's not going to be as effective right away, but I could try to sell it. Maybe it's not going to be worth as much, or do I try to repair it and use it? Those, I think, are interesting questions. And I think with magic, it's enough that they don't come up that often that I think it might be worth it just for a little function. Just adds a little bit of intrigue to it. I mean, but it's a neat little system. I just can't see myself using it because I just don't know that I just don't know who's going to bother. That stuff is those kinds of things are almost suboptimal from the very beginning, unless your delves are just super loot poor. And then even at that point, you're only going to do it for a couple times and you're going to stop because you'll be finding better stuff, or you just be angling for better stuff. You'll own equivalent or better stuff. But curious, let me know if that seems like something you guys would want to add to your games. Always like to know. Here's my little iced coffee decanter over here on the side. Surviving the session is our next article. How are we at? All right. Oh, gosh, we might be running short. Maybe I can go long. We'll see. Mark says, yeah, the only way my players would grab anything with these rules and play would be if Magic was involved. Yeah, that's my thinking of. And it's just a matter of the economics are tough enough already. Surviving the session. Running a West Marches or open table campaign offers a lot of flexibility when it comes to scheduling, session length, and planning. However, one of the main staples of the West Marches is that every session ends in town, usually the same town as always, but that's a whole other thing. But what happens when the party comes to the end of the session and they're still wandering around the dungeon? They fail to pay attention to the time, real time, and pushed to search one more room, find another typo, find some more coins that they can grab with their greedy little mitts on. A decision needs to be made. Continue on and have the session run long, not only punishing them for their greed and lack of foresight, or tell them the session is over and they are trapped forever. All right. Let's see what else is going on. So basically, this is kind of I don't know if this is the mechanic or what we're going to see, but this is definitely about what do you do at the end of a session when you need to be back in town, but your party did not get back to town. Okay. So here, Tristan says they advocate for a 3-hour session limit. Every group gets the same 3 hours. The session length now becomes a resource for the party to manage. They are aware when the referee will call time and the session will end. They will keep one eye on the clock and gauge if it is worth kicking down another door or if they should start making their way back to the surface. And if they choose to delve deeper, press their luck and push their time limit, then if they fail to return to town by the end of the session, there have to be consequences. So what follows are some consequences. You use the random tables when you declare that time's up and the session comes to an end. To an end and okay, there's a period there shouldn't be. Your players stare at you because they are stuck on the second level of the dungeon. Now, because we aren't complete and unfeeling monsters, we're going to give the players a copy of these tables. Let them look them over and see what might be in store for them should their greed overtake their wisdom. I totally agree that you should definitely get your players to see something like this. So this is Tristan's version of the you didn't make it out of the dungeon kind of roles. Now, in terms of the session length, I get what he's saying, right? You have different groups getting together as part of this big community West Marches thing you have going on. It's the most fair if all the sessions run are the same length. I think I would just let people, if everyone's available for a longer session, I don't know that I would say 3 hours or up. If we're able to put together a special session on a weekend and some people can make it and some can't, we're going to run it 6 hours or we're going to run it 4 hours and some other people can only make a mini session of 2 hours. I'm fine with that. What I think I might do though is say, okay, we're going to set the session length in advance. And that way there's no gotcha. That way it's like, okay, well today on Saturday, we're going to run for 6 hours and or even say we're going to end at this time. Maybe that's even a better way. So if you want to fiddle faddle, take breaks, chit chat, whatever, but like, okay, the session is ending at 5:00 p.m. So either you get here at 1 and you're ready to go, you get 4 hours, right? Or whatever, but we're ending wherever you are, wherever's having going on at 5:00. Maybe even set a timer. You can use whatever that, use your phone or use a smart device to set a timer and say, all right, 5:00. Done. And that way, from the beginning of the session, everybody knows already when the session's ending. So then then it's up to the players to eyeball the clock and figure it out. And then if nobody does and you're on the second level of the dungeon and the timer, the bell, whatever goes off, then you roll the tables. Okay, so we've got a percentile roll here initially. There's a 10% chance the characters just make it back to town safely. Hoorah. There's 11 to 55% chance that the characters made it out of the dungeon into the wilderness. And there's a 44% chance the characters make it into the wilderness. And then a 44% chance that the characters did not make it out. Or would that be 45? Any case, something like that. 44 and 45% and a 10% chance. So we have a wilderness table. You roll another percentile, 1 to 3% chance you find some gold in Detroit Caravan and return to town safely. Hey, look at that. You get a little extra money in your pocket. 4 to 10, you manage to find your way out unscathed. 11 to 20, you return to town after several days in the wilderness. Roll d6 damage. On a 21 to 25, you return to town with no equipment or money after being attacked by brigands. That's gotta hurt. On a 26 to 30, you're lost for 1d6 days. Mark off that many rations. If you have none left, roll a d6. On a 1, you make it back to town. Otherwise, you starve to death. Oosh. That's tough. On at 31 to 40, you're attacked by ghouls. You are now one. You are now one of them. Oh no. 41 to 50, you're attacked by a werewolf. You are now, I think, cursed unless you can find a cure within 30 days. And on a 51 to 60, you fell into the river and drowned. Jeez, or a river. On a 61 to 70, you slipped and fell down a ravine, breaking your leg and leaving you defenseless against the elements. 1 in 6 chance of survival. On a success, re-roll on this table. Oof, that's a tough one. And then finally, 71 to 100, you are lost to the cruel wilderness and never heard from again. Womp womp. If the players did not make it out of the dungeon, roll the following table to discover their fate. So here we have a dungeon table, also similarly with percentages. 1 to 3%, you find some gold on your way out. Now you have to roll on the wilderness table. Ooh, double, what do you call it? Double jeopardy. On a 4 to 10, you make it out of the dungeon. One the worst for wear. Roll on the wilderness table, or none the worst for wear. On 11 to 15, I think they're kind of similar. I think we're seeing the pattern here. 11 to 15, you're separated from your porters. You lose everything out in your person, and then you got to roll on the wilderness table. 16 to 20, you're captured by goblins. 1 in 6 chance to escape. On a success, roll on the wilderness table. 21 to 25, in your haste to escape the dungeon, you foolishly spring a trap. You're now a red smear on the stone floor. Ugh, that's rough. On a 26 to 30, you become lost in the labyrinthine halls. 1 in 6 chance of finding your way out. And if you do, guess what? You're rolling on the wilderness table. 31 to 40, you're attacked by giant spiders. You're now one of their desiccated trophies. 41 to 50, you find an ancient spell book. Upon opening it, your life force is drained from your body. You're left an empty husk on the floor. Hey, maybe the party will come back and find your husk. 51 to 60, you step in something black and gooey. It quickly engulfs you and digests you. Yeah, that happens. 61 to 70, you wander hopelessly lost, making your way deeper and deeper into the dungeon until you are turned to stone by a basilisk. That also is that's a tough one. And finally, on a 71 to 100, your fate is unknown, but stories of your demise abound. Narrate your own fate. I like that. I like the narrate your own fate. All right, where are we now? The Master Swordsmith. A massively crafted weapon is a thing of beauty, a keen edge that never dulls, an expertly leather-wrapped hilt that clings to one's hand, and an ornate pommel are signs of one's dedication to mastering their weapon. So many adventurers begin their career with a cast-off blade stolen from the corpse of some unwary delver, but few ever feel the weight of a weapon crafted especially for them by a legendary swordsmith. Works of art such as this, are not easy to come by and are not cheap. In fact, attaining a weapon of this caliber is a quest in and of itself. In order to grip the hilt of one of these masterworks, an adventurer should be expected to seek out one of a handful of smiths capable of forging such a weapon. And once they are found, they will likely not forge a sword for just anyone. A prospective client will need to prove themselves worthy of wielding a blade that carries its maker's mark. Beyond that is the cost of the weapon. A sword of a craftsmanship so high as to be considered magical is many times the going rate of a normal blade. One of these weapons can run into the tens of thousands of gold coins. What does all this mean in game terms? Well, first of all, those +1 or +2 magic swords can have a provenance. They are the relics of great and wondrous swordsmiths. Their quality is of a level that they are believed to be magical. For the purposes of mechanics, they behave as magical weapons. Against any creature that can only be hurt by magical weapons, then these masterwork weapons are indeed magical, even if they have not had a spell cast into them. I think I would just call it that's the kind of the magic of craft, so to speak. That's the thing, like in Tolkien, right? Elvish cloaks are not magical in the sense that anybody could make one, but they have to teach you how, and just nobody has had the time or wherewithal to ask for how, kind of thing. But when you look at its effects, they are magical enough to be magical. I suppose in the same way that like a ghillie suit or some kind of camouflage, if you were to go back to the Middle Ages or before and throw on a ghillie suit and go running around, people might think that you're magically, vanishing. And I think this is kind of something think similar. But I always like that, the idea that something is crafted at such a high level that basically it is kind of magic. It's just not a cast spell. It's like the magic of this person's effort and essence has given it magical or pseudo magical powers. In a game where there are no magic shops selling magic items, these blades of unparalleled keenness are the only thing that might be found to purchase. The cost of a sword bearing the mark of a renowned smith can fetch many thousands of gold coins. Finding one in a dungeon makes it even more valuable, like finding a Picasso in an attic. And by the way, these masterwork swords could also be something that we could use with those the damaged weapons and armor rolls. For mundane stuff, you could roll it too, but it's just unless your party's taking them to town, like who cares? But for these other things that could be special, then I think rolling on their condition adds some extra intrigue as to whether they carry them with you or not. Because you may not know how much that you might see that they have some value. You might be able to use some kind of skill or roll to see if you can see a mark on it that might say, oh my gosh, I think this might be by the great smith blah blue. So I want to hold on to it, but it's also heavy and it's very rusted. And if it's not by blue, then I'm wasting my time and my encumbrance. But man, if it is by blue, then either it's worth a lot of money for resale or I can wear it. It's going to be better than what I have. But can these swords, axes, daggers, etc. be crafted now, or are they only something from a bygone era? That all comes down to your campaign world. I personally like the idea that there are maybe 4 smiths in the world capable of building a weapon of such quality that it gets that +1 bonus. Maybe of those 4, only one smith is able to build a weapon that gives it +2. Okay, so then we have some. I'm just kind of. I think we get the kind of gist of it, and I'm taking more time than I want, not because I don't trying to rush. Well, I am kind of trying to rush only because I promised I would do 2 zines, and we're still in the first zine. But I like this, and we just got a quick table of the bonus on the and how long it takes, and then the cost. So a +1 masterwork style weapon would take a month and cost 5,000 gold pieces. +2 would be 3 months and 10,000 gold pieces, and then a +3 would be 6 months and 15,000 gold pieces. I'm not comparing though. I don't know how much those are in comparison to magic weapons, but the one thing, and just in terms of value, but the one thing is, and this something else that's good about this is that if you have players who don't want magic swords, they want some kind of other funky weapon. It sometimes can be hard unless you're editing all the magic tables and the magic generators to get magic weapons of these types, because swords are favored. But they can go and they can have one of these made. They want to have a +3 halberd or something else, then you have a mechanism to say yes, but they got to find the guy, which is a great adventure hook. They got to have the money, which is another great kind of adventure hook, and then they have to spend time, or at least build in time. They just can't go to the store and buy it. They're gonna have to go and then wait half a year of game time before they're able to get it. The Lizard Riders. Deep in the forgotten jungle, far to the south, hairy-footed humanoids live in seclusion. They've built a grand civilization. Their monuments of stone rise above the canopy of the jungle. The pinnacles of their ziggurats reach for the sun like clawing fingers desperate to touch their god. That's a cool image. These halflings have had very little contact with anyone outside of their community. This by no means indicates their level of technology or advancement. They are accomplished builders. They have learned to farm and survive in the dense jungle, and out of necessity are fierce warriors. They fight with spears and bows from atop their mounts. Over the course of the centuries, they have tamed the great lizards of the jungles. All right. So we have the Halfling Lizard Rider, which I guess is a class, maybe. So, or just this is just the creature version. So it's it's a class. Looks like so you need to have dex of 10 and a con of 9. The prime requisites are strength and dex. They get d6 hit points. Their max level is 8. Lizard Riders look very similar to their more common cousins. However, their disposition is more aggressive, and they never shy away from a fight. They have a love of battle that is rivaled only by barbarians of the north. Lizard Riders may not use large or two-handed weapons, but may use any other weapon or armor. They must have at least 13 in one of their prime requisites to gain plus 5% experience. If they have 13 in both prime requisites, they get plus 10%. In addition to enjoying all the other benefits of the halfling, Lizard Riders get an additional +1 to attack and damage when riding on their giant lizard, and +1 to armor class when mounted. Halfling Lizard Riders have an intense connection with their mount. If their mount dies, the Lizard Rider will withdraw from society and wander the world alone. Oh, no. So you don't want to lose your lizard. Oh, and there we have it. I wouldn't mind getting stats for the giant lizard, actually. I'm not sure. Does it say? I don't think it says. So I'd love to see a stat of what the actual lizzing is. Are these Everton things at home? I'm not sure. Well, this is really good. Thanks, Tristan, for sharing it with me. Some really good stuff in here, some food for thought. And that is Beyond the Twisted Portal, issue 1. Link to it on drive-through. Oh, Eberon. I don't know. I'll have to ask him if what the if there's any, or what the if there was an influence from anything or another. I suppose if they were Everton halflings, then they'd have a hatred for Liverpool and be suffering through almost getting relegated every year. I don't know any Everton players who rode giant lizards, though. I'd love to see it. I actually made the mistake. It's not a mistake. I adopted Everton as my Premier League team because I know too many people who are Liverpool fans. So I went the other way. It's been a rough ride. It's been a rough ride as someone trying to support Everton, but I haven't given up. Go Toffees. Oh, they ride dinosaurs in Eberron. I see. Okay. So hopefully I left enough time for us to look at Ulfhedyn, Werewolf Warriors. New character class, lore, and monsters for old school essentials. So we looked at one that was very much in the ethos of a personal project, laid out very simply and very clearly, just getting the content out there, which I can appreciate. Now we're getting into the other end of kind of, and I don't know if he calls this a zine, I'm calling it a zine, where it's very well, very heavily designed. But, I think it's going to be nice. This is a pretty picture. A landscape of the, what is this? The Gothland province. Okay, a cautionary tale. I'm going to zoom in here. Yeah, I don't know. Zine, supplement. I mean, a zine can be a supplement, right? They're not mutually exclusive. I don't know. So I use the term zine. I don't think it matters over much. We have her, said one of the orcs in his harsh tongue. Tonight we will feast on human meat. Human meat is good. Human meat is tasty, another orc growled, licking its lips as the small warband delved deeper into the forest. She just entered that clearing. Let's surround her. She won't escape. Slowly and silently, the orcs fanned out and entered the clearing. The full moon cast an eerie glow over the forest as they closed in on their prey. Her red hair floating in the cold breeze, Sedir looked like she was waiting for them. Her steady gaze and calm breathing betrayed no hint of fear, although she was alone and the orcs were many. How unwise of you, she said just as one of the orcs was about to shoot the first arrow. The full moon is a wolf's ally. You should have known better. What wolf? The warband leader stopped the archer with a hasty nod. He wanted to play a little with his prey before killing. Her lack of fear baffled and intrigued him. The orc had never seen such baldness in a human about to die. Sedir's lips slowly opened in a grim smile. Was it just an impression, or was she getting bigger, brawnier? What the? Stammered the orc leader. She-wolf! Danger! Cried another, but it was too late. Before the orcs could react, Sedir's form began to twist and grow. Her limbs elongated and fur sprouted from her skin. Within moments, she towered over them as a massive werewolf over 6 feet tall. She howled savagely, and they screamed in fear. Sedir lunged forward, her claws slashing through the air. The first orc barely had time to scream before she tore through its chest, blood spraying like a crimson mist. Then all was blood and death. Is it done? Asked Sir Rowan, the old knight, when Sedir, the Ulfhedyn, returned to camp shortly after dawn. Done. The orcs are all dead. The villagers are safe now. I think I heard the echoes of their screams in the middle of the night, said Sheila the rogue. I pinned their heads on pikes as a warning. The orcs will think twice before approaching the village again. How barbaric, scoffed Sir Rowan with a poorly concealed smile. We're lucky to have an Ulfhedyn by our side, giggled Sheila. Whoops, I thought that was Sir Rowan. We have our monster to unleash upon them too. Would you repeat it? Sedir's voice was low and deep as a growl. Oh, I didn't mean like that, Sheila stammered, her eyes wide with realization. We're just fortunate to have someone as powerful as you on our side. Please forgive me. Sadir shook her head. She knew the rogue meant not to be rude, but she also knew that it was what all her party thought of her. She was a monster, an ally, yet a monster nonetheless. No offense taken. Now, let's move. I must return to Holmvagar to report. The Imperial Legate will be pleased, said the knight. Good, said Sheila. Maybe he'll be willing to shell out a little extra. Yeah, so we get some nice flavor there. I don't know how this would, I don't know what size this is. I feel like this text is a bit small. So the one nice thing about looking and reading this in PDF is I can, as obviously we're well aware if you're watching, so I could zoom in. I wouldn't mind if it were, I don't know, maybe a little bit bigger type, maybe 40, but yeah, it's a nice, you get a nice little flavor, right? So this is what we're going to be talking about, werewolves, and you get a nice little intro to what the werewolf can be. Taming the wolves. Okay, so I'm not going to get, I want to kind of get to the meat of things, right? Especially since I'm kind of running a little bit long. So we have some kind of history here of the area, this Gothland. I think I'm gonna kind of bypass some of that, but I do want to read the sidebar called "Truth of the Setting." This module makes some assumptions about the game world. Feel free to tweak or ignore them to make the module fit your campaign. The province of Gothland is part of an old empire spanning a vast continent. The current empire is Egon Kruvaha the 12th, who rules from the Obsidian Throne in the capital of Rumne, or Rumn, or Rumn. I'm not sure how I should pronounce it. The administrative class trains in Rumne and then goes to regions and provinces. Governors hold the regions while legates supervise the provinces like Gothland. Nowadays, the empire is going through a phase of deep political crisis, and its grip over the most remote regions and provinces is ever weakening. Although the empire has always been tolerant towards religious diversity, its official cult is that of the First Mother, the divinized figure of Ezebeth Kruvaha, the mighty war lady who founded the empire. This module shares the same world as Tales of the Wolfguard and Sword of the Dragon Slayer. So there you go. So we got some good, so these kind of building out. So they're calling it a module, right? And it's going to be kind of looking like they're sort of fleshing out the world in these different projects. So if you like this setting, if you like the setting of Tales from the Wolfguard and or Sword of the Dragon Slayer, then we're getting more of it here, which is good. The Order. Not even the Ulfhedyns remember anymore whence their shape-shifting powers, the moon that I think they call the moon blessing come from. Yet they all still share a common vision of life where mysticism, dreams, and omens and superstition play a pivotal role. All the Ulfhedyns follow the Order's rule Carlos the Conqueror gave them, consisting of 3 laconic laws: obey the Emperor, never mate with an Ulfhedyn, never feast on the flesh of a kin royal to the Emperor. So they kind of have, I guess they were, they were brought into the Empire, given these 3 rules, and these rules they stick to, which is cool. It's interesting to see if there's any consequences for not following those rules. Is it just a social thing where you just become outcast, or does it have any kind of, is there any deeper binding that happens? Oh, I think there's right here. When an Ulfhedyn violates the rules of the Order, the punishment awaiting is usually death. The way the Order carries it out is brutal. The White Wolf calls for a blood hunt in which the sentenced one is hunted down and killed. The White Wolf is the Order, the master of the Order. And here at Holmvagar is their headquarters. That's cool. It's a nice little picture. I mean, I'm not sure I need that. I don't know that it matters but we get where the White Wolf's quarters. This is the master, the common hall, armory and repository, and the dormitory, especially from the outside. But it's nice. Now we get to the class features. So the minimum con of 9, minimum dex of 9. So it is interesting because Tristan's halfling lizard rider had a little bit tougher requirements, and it's not, I don't really mean to compare them, but it's just you probably might need to all these things are basically, there's no hard and fast rules for what your things like requirements and things should be for different classes. So ultimately, take all these in and then figure out how they fit with you and what other, if you're using other supplements and things, kind of how they all fit together, because you might find some are, for reasoning of different authors, was made one way rather than other, and there's not going to be a right or wrong because there isn't one. There was no hard and fast guidelines, so people kind of pick what they want. So keep that in mind with all these. Feel free to change these up to match. So their primary requisite is strength. Their hit dice is a D8. Their max level is 14. Their armor is any, including shields. Their weapons are any, and their language is alignment, common, and runic. All Ulfhedyn belonging to the order are lawful or neutral. The order expels the Ulfhedyns who show chaotic behavior, and loyal Ulfhedyns mercilessly hunt and kill them down. That's an interesting way to put it. So it sounds like there's the possibility for being a chaotic Ulfhedyn, but might be a rough road. Ulfhedyns can use all types of weapons and armor. A party with an Ulfhedyn successfully forges with a 2 in 6 chance. If the Ulfhedyn is in wolf form, the party also finds game on hunting with a 4 in 6 chance. So that's kind of nice. I don't know if one of the other modules they basically have the basic chances, or where what you could pull whatever numbers, but presuming it's probably would be a 1 in 6 chance without them, and maybe we're talking about 2 in 6. I'm not sure, but that's good to know. Shape-shifting powers. As they grow in level, Ulfhedyns require new shape-shifting powers as described below. Look at the table on the next page to know when the character starts showing a new power. And then they have a quality, I guess, called unsettling. All normal animals react with fear and shy away when an Ulfhedyn is around. An Ulfhedyn can get the animal used to their presence with time and patience. So I guess train what they mean. All right, so now we have some rules for shape-shifting. First, there's a strain roll. Shape-shifting is a fatiguing endeavor represented by the strain dice. The strain dice type, which means D4, D6, D8, etc., depends on the character's level. Anytime the character wants to shapeshift, they must roll on the strain dice. On a result of 3+, the transformation occurs with no consequences. On a 1 or 2, this transformation happens, but the strain dice downgrades by 1 type this way: D10 to D8 to D6 to D4 to 0. When the strain dice drops to 0, the character can't shapeshift. After a rest, the strain dice upgrades by 1 type up to the maximum the character's level allows, which I guess we'll see what that max is. Let's see. Sapphire Ridge says Eberron shifters as a racist class. Yeah, I'm not all that familiar with Eberron. I have looked through it a bit, but I just don't have it really well internalized. So I'll take your word for it. I don't think these guys can shapeshift into things other than wolves, though. So, but you could probably also use this as a base if you wanted to have other shape-shifting classes that specific ones like werebears and wererats and wereboars. Okay. Ability modifiers. All the characters' ability modifiers apply when the Ulfhedyn shapeshifts. And then let's see. The shapeshifting features of an Ulfhedyn do not derive from a disease. For this reason, the bite and claws of transformed Ulfhedyn aren't infectious. So they're not passing. They're not lycanthropes in that way. They're not passing. They're not diseased, and they're not passing a disease. Oh, Sapphire Ridge, the shifters just get wolf aspects. This is more of a druid. I see. Okay. So now we get the level progression. So it's 14 level progression. They get powers at the first level, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and then 8th, 9th, and 10th. And then their strain dice go up. So D10 max, and they start at D4. So you could try to shift. So when you're low level, you're going to try to shift, but you're only going to have, it's going to have a 50% chance of it working. I wonder if you have to roll both shifting back and forth, which would be interesting, because that might be a neat thing to do. Just some added tension of you being in wolf form and not being able to get back. Silverbane, so silver weapons, they do get the vulnerability to silver and also the Wolfsbane. And then let's see, something called complex actions. When a transformed Ulfhedyn performs complex feats with paws and mouth, e.g. drawing in the dirt, turning a doorknob, the character must make a dex check with a -4 penalty. That's a nice no. So I don't know if I would call it complex actions, but I guess if they're trying to do something sort of humanish that requires humanoid parts for the most part, then they're just awkward because they're in an animal form, and yeah, they don't have a hand. They've got to use to turn a doorknob, or they got to use their mouth or their paw, and it's awkward. And there's a roll there to kind of simulate that, which I like. Now on the powers. Okay, so the powers are all numbered, kind of Roman numeraled 1 through 9. So number 1 is wolf form. From levels 1 to 5, the Ulfhedyn may only shapeshift in wolf form, thus acquiring the following stats. And we have some stats for the wolf form. In wolf form, the Ulfhedyn can talk to wolves of any kind, although the conversation can only focus on simple concepts. So the wolves are not humanoid. Unless the wolves are humanoid intelligent, they're going to be at an animal level, so you have to keep it to that level. So I guess the upgrade to that is Night Prowler. Ulfhedyn can shapeshift only during the night. Oh, I think, or maybe it's so at first level they get powers 1, 2, and 3. It's an interesting way to put it because 2 is not really a power so much as it is a limitation, but that's fine. And then 3rd is the same one. part that you get at first level, which is another, I think, limitation or constraint. That's from level 1 to 3. Ulfhedyn must be naked before shapeshifting because their clothes and equipment do not transform with them. And then the next power, which is 4, which they get at 3rd level, Unchained. So starting at 3rd level, basically Ulfhedyn can shapeshift during the day. And then level 4, there's a magical element is added, so their clothes and equipment will magically disappear and reappear with them. So basically, they don't have to disrobe anymore. The skyclad power basically no longer applies. That's not really. I don't know why they call it a power because it's not a power. It's a limit. Killed by the breastplate. Yeah, it could be. Let's see. Werewolf form. You get a level 5. The Ulfhedyn can also shapeshift into a werewolf. The form modifies the character stats this way. So I guess the werewolf form, I guess, would be that humanoid wolf hybrid. So first, they're just transforming just into a straight up wolf. Now they're transforming into kind of a wolf person, wolfinoid, lupinoid. Wait, lupin, is that wolf or is that no? Lupin is fox. What's wolf? I don't know. Wolfinoid. Let's see. In werewolf form, the Ulfhedyn can talk to other werewolves. An Ulfhedyn in wolf form can directly shift to werewolf form with the usual strain dice roll and vice versa. Okay. And then let's see. Moon Caress is next, right? Yes. From level 8, the Ulfhedyn recovers 1d4 hit points after a rest. That's kind of nice, but it doesn't have to be at night though. So I'm not sure what the connection to the moon is, but still it's nice. And then at level 9, non-magical to non-silvered weapons only deal half damage to the Ulfhedyn while in werewolf or werewolf form, which is awfully nice. And then finally, the last power is Wolf at the Door from level 10. Once per day, when in werewolf form, the Ulfhedyn can utter a frightening howl with a range of 180 yards, 180 feet if the sound has to pass through a building or natural barriers to reach the victims. Friends and foes hearing the howl must save versus spells or run away in fear, hide, lock themselves inside their house, etc. Creatures with as many or more hit dice as the Ulfhedyn's level are immune to the howl. All right. I like it. The only thing I would say is I don't know if I like the way the powers are laid out because some of them are just limits, and I might just rather it written out in a different way. But I think it all makes sense. I mean, it's a pretty strong. You got a lot of stuff going on, but keep in mind this is your class, right? So you're not layering this on top of something else. This isn't a template like, okay, I'm a fighter, and now I'm layering this on top. It's like, no, you're an Ulfhedyn, so this is kind of all you are getting. And I'm not going to go through and analyze it too deeply. I think it is what it is, and if you're interested in putting this in your campaign, then you might want to look at it just to see how it stacks up with other classes, just to see. But it's interesting. I like its take on the kind of shapeshifter. I guess just wolf shapeshifter type. Runic symbols. Runic symbols are all that remains of the Ulfhedyn's old secret tongue. Once it was a full-form language, today it only consists of a few symbols left as a warning or information only fellow Ulfhedyns can read and understand. For no reason, an Ulfhedyn will reveal the runic symbols meaning to someone not belonging to the order. I think they mean that there's. This is a little bit unclear. I'm guessing they mean that they're just not going to reveal it to you. They will never. There is no reason for which they will tell you. I think is what they mean. But it's cool, so you can spread these around, some kind of runes. So we got monster, dragon, evil magic nearby, few, goblinoid, dancer of the skin, were creature, many, shelter nearby, strong, traitor, undead, weak, or demon. So you could use these as kind of hobo marks or something like your Ulfhedyn might come and see a tree and they see this scratched in the tree and then they'll get some idea of what's going on, which is kind of cool. And you could leave that for your fellow Ulfhedyns or leave it for your own mark. And it's going to be kind of mysterious. And as an Ulfhedyn that anybody outside the order, aka no non-Ulfhedyns, not even chaotic Ulfhedyns, are going to be able to understand the script. We get some new monsters, Dancer of the Skin. This individual belongs to a dark cult devoted to killing and flaying the Ulfhedyns to wear their skin and absorb their powers. Yeesh. I like it, but it's kind of grisly. We have a hollow one. At first glance, it looks like an undead in the early stages of composition or decomposition, but its body is an empty shell inhabited by a swarm of insects. It populates abandoned cemeteries and the dirtiest areas of dungeons. That's really creepy and cool. A hollow, basically a husk of a body, maybe the skin or something that's inhabited by a swarm of insects. That is cool and nasty. We have Stolas. This bizarre demon resembles an owl standing 6 feet tall on slender legs. It has bulging eyes and wears a crown on its head. It is bound to serve the sorcerer who summons it. That's a very funny looking demon, but I like it. And then let's see, it's got a copycat ability, it's got some immunities and some reflection powers. Hey, Mark, cheers. Good luck with the grass. Oh, look at that. You're leaving just in time, Mark, because we're at the end. Oh, but I like this. We do get an Ulfhedyn character sheet, which is nice. So one that's filled out, and then one that's blank. And then we get a map of Gothland, and then we're at the back of the book. All right. So what did we think of this? I really like the Ulfhedyn. This is the kind of thing I'd like to get into myself, just in terms of being able to put a small thing. Hey, Mac Jack, you did come just in time, just made it for the end. It's a nice. It is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a small zine supplement module, whatever you want to put it. You can plug it in. That's going to give you access to this class. Interesting little backstory for them. Some setting information if you're interested in the setting that they've established with, let's see, what are the two modules again? With Tales of the Wolfguard and Sword of the Dragon Slayer. I don't know whether it's particularly balanced or not, but it's a neat idea. I like the kind of flavor that's giving. It's not just werewolves. The idea of them having kind of an order seems pretty interesting. It reminds me of like what were those vampire versus werewolf movies from the 90s, early aughts? Underworld, like the first Underworld I really liked a lot, where there's this kind of, like vampire werewolf society. This is a little bit different, but it's got that similar kind of vibe where the werewolves are sort of have this order that gives them a place in the empire, but it's always a little bit off. They don't really get that much. You don't really read that much of it into here, but you get it in the story that there's a little bit of a discomfort, or not. It's not totally comfortable. They're kind of on the outside. They're part of it, but they're not totally accepted. But that's kind of a neat thing. I might want to for myself, I might want to flesh that a little bit more. Is there maybe have some kind of binding to do with that? Maybe there's some kind of ritual that they go through when they get bound, and some folks don't want to get bound and they get outcast and hunted down. I might do something like that, which is just a little bit extra. I like you get a little sort of secret code that you can deploy in places. That's fun. And the powers of the wolf, like, they're interesting the way they kind of build them up so that by, I don't know, 10th, 11th, when do they unlock everything? I guess they unlock the last actual thing at 10th level. The strain dice is interesting. Mine's, it's a little bit of usage. It's kind of like a usage die, pretty much. Or I think Mighty Deeds uses something like that as well for just triggering when you're transforming. It seems to be implied that maybe you have to roll to get back out of a form, like transformation. Either way, I would probably roll it for both. I just think it's a little bit more fun. Maybe I'd have to dial up the odds a little bit, but I like the idea that maybe you could get caught in wolf form and not be able to transform back. And it can last a little while. So I think it's like you have to rest or something. And if you're talking about rest, like an overnight rest, then you can get stuck in wolf form for quite a while, or not be able to get into wolf form. I was thinking of not Twilight Sufferers, yeah, Underworld, right? You got it. Yep, Underworld. I know that after the first Underworld movie, they kind of went downhill super fast, but the first Underworld I thought was really cool. Sapphire Ridge says, "Define self-man if you want a wolf dude." Yeah, that's kind of it, right? You want a wolf dude that's got something to it. It's not just like, oh, give me a werewolf template. Like, you've got it. You have got it here. Like I said, I'm not. I don't have the wherewithal or the desire to sit there and look and really crunch the numbers to see if it's absolutely balanced or not. It seems okay at first glance. Maybe it's overpowered. I don't know, but you take it and then you can make with it what you will, and use it as a base, and then tweak it to suit whatever kind of power level, Gonzo level setting, whatever your game is in. But yeah, I think it's good, and I really like these kind of, I don't know, sort of very focused supplements. Hey, here's the thing, and it's just that, and you do get some monsters and you get some setting stuff, but there you go. The art is very nice. The art's nice. The map's nice. It's well laid out. The only thing I might say is I might like this. This font's a little bit hard to read, and it might be small. I think if I was looking this, if it were printed in kind of the sort of standard zine format, I might find that hard to read. Luckily for me, I just have it digitally, so I can zoom in. So I might want to tweak that just for myself. But I'm an older guy whose eyes are not what they were. But yes, is all good. I think they got a nice template for this, and kind of that's the thing with the kind of the layout stuff. Once you get you get your sort of house template, you can just crank stuff out, not really worried about anymore because you've got it. So I think they have a nice, clean, clear template. Yes, fitting everything into a zine is indeed indeed a trick. Absolutely, it can be tough, but this is good. It's good. I don't know if you can get it printed or if it's just digital right now or what the plans are for printing, but this is available on drive-through, as is Tristan's zine that we covered earlier. So if you didn't make it for the first part, please go back and watch the first part of it. Oh, I already closed it on. Hold on. Beyond the Twisted Portal, because we also went through that, and that had some really good stuff in there as well. All right, folks. I didn't go over too badly. You're gonna name your Wolfman Greg. Excellent. Not what was his name? Well, not Wolfman Jack. All good. So there's a lot of fun. I like to do these. I don't often get small things or just, I don't want to say small like it's a bad thing. Like I like smaller things. It lets me do more in a stream than, I'm going to be, Dune has been great, but it's going to take me a bunch of things in there, a bunch of time to go through it. It's just long. So these where I can be kind of short and punchy and get through them, I dig it. So it's nice to do as a change up from doing something long. Thanks so much to Tristan. Thanks so much to Andrea for sending these over to me. I really enjoyed reading them. The links are to drive through. They are affiliate links. So if that bothers you, sorry. I should put that in my template, just that the affiliate, that I think most people understand their affiliate links. It doesn't bother you in any way, but they are there. I will probably mark this as promotional because they were sent to me, but of course nobody had an idea what I was going to say about them, and there were no promises made, yada, yada, yada. They were just sent me because I thought I might like them, and maybe they thought I would do them on the channel, and I did. So there you have it, folks. Other than that, have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.